Hi Nimfam and welcome to FPL 5 Things with Fergie. This is a weekly show where we will discuss the 5 talking points in FPL for the up and coming game week. So let's get Fergie in and chat about the 5 things for game week 2. Hi Fergie, what's occurring, buddy?
Hi there, Nim. How are you? Very good. 100-point game week. So
100
the
points. Come on, what a start. Not
same
bad,
as
is
you, I
it?
think, wasn't it? So
Yeah, yeah.
amazing start to the Premier League season, FPL, wasn't it? Absolutely superb weekend.
Absolutely. We cannot complain with that for a start. Now let's just hope it's all uphill from here and not
Absolutely,
downhill.
this is it.
Okay, as last week, shall we chat over our first thing, which is our captaincy options? And this week, it's very much Salah versus Bruno, right? So Bruno got a hat trick with 20 points last game week, 3 goals, 3 shots and 3 on target, and has Southampton up next, who conceded 3 goals against Everton.
Yeah.
So, what's your thoughts on Bruno there, Fergie?
Yeah, I think, he's a fantastic option. So I think last season, Man United played better away from home than at home. Bruno especially was, absolutely awesome. Southampton as well have lost Bertrand and Vestergaard from their defence. And even though they started off okay against Everton, Everton's attack was just a bit too strong for them. So I think that Bruno is he's a really good option. He did only have, as you said, had the 3 shots and and the 3 in the box. So he's very, very clinical, which obviously he's not going to be able to do every single week.
Mm.
It was great to see him score 3 goals from open play as well. All the penalty stuff has gone for the time being.
No more
Is
Penandes for now,
no more
anyway.
Penandes. He took his third goal particularly well. There was maybe a hint it was offside, so I think we'll see the benefit as well this season of the wider lines. Will help, and we'll see more goals. So overall, I think Bruno's a great option. And last week, when we spoke this time last week, I thought that Salah was probably a shoe-in for captaincy for this week,
Yeah.
especially after his performance last week as well. But I do think Bruno is a great contender. Which way are you kind of swaying at the moment then?
Yeah, so I'm kind of with you and on Salah at the moment, but
Yeah,
Bruno is definitely a great option. I mean, Salah didn't exactly let us down last week either, did he?
no,
17
didn't.
points, 1 goal, 2 assists, 5 shots, 4 in the box, and 2 on
Yeah,
target. So possibly a little more in play there.
yeah,
Burnley struggled last week against Brighton, conceding 2 goals. That said, you know what? Salah does struggle a little bit against the low block, doesn't he? But at home, at Anfield, I mean, Salah could go massive, really, couldn't he?
he could. And Burnley are one of these teams as well. More so, more recently against Man City, but when they tend to concede a goal or two, they have capitulated. In recent years. I know that Salah's specific record against Burnley has been that good, but I think he'll be different in front of the fans. And yeah, I think it'd take a brave person to bet against Salah, especially in the early kickoff as well. And I think Brighton had the third highest amount of shots last week as well, which was quite surprising, but an interesting stat, obviously, that Burnley let off quite a lot of shots against them last week. So I think that's something to think about as well.
Yeah, okay, cool. So leaning more towards Salah at the moment, but Bruno isn't a terrible option. Who is our kind of maverick pick for captaincy this week? Anyone out there that you would consider outside of those two?
Yeah, I wouldn't say massively maverick, but Danny Ings home to Newcastle, I think, could be a great shout. So I didn't think he played well last week. Villa as a unit didn't play well last week, but obviously Newcastle conceded 4 to West Ham. They had the worst expected goals conceded of the game week with 3.8 by a fair distance as well. He showed he's on penalties. It remains to be seen if he'll still be on penalties when El Ghazi's on the pitch, but I think that Ings could be, a really good shout. And in terms of, a real 1 week punt, I think we mentioned Alonso last week as a complete 1 week punt. I get the feeling that Gabriel Jesus is going to start this week
Ooh.
at home to Norwich for Man City. So if anyone is looking for a complete,
A
if anyone's on
complete
free hit
differential.
or a complete and utter differential, Jesus at home to Norwich could, if he does start, which I expect him to, I think he could cause a bit of damage as well. But I think I'm on Salah just because he's, effective ownership is going to be massive as well. We've got off to a good start. We spoke last week and the week before about choosing our battles as well,
Yeah.
and you can't go
Sticking with the
far wrong in
crowd
my
at this
opinion.
particular point is
Exactly
always
that.
good. Fab stuff. Moving on to number 2, and this week it's should we be knee jerking Ben Rama into our teams? Clearly, he's quite popular already after his goal and assist against Newcastle, as he's had a point 0.1 rise just
Yeah.
last night. So, what's your thoughts on Ben Rama there, Fergie?
So in terms of the question, in terms of knee jerking, like we've spoken over the weeks about setting your team up for the long term. So I think that if anyone is thinking of knee jerking in, I can't see a reason specifically why you should, because every manager should have a decent team.
Yeah,
Personally speaking, going into game week 2. In terms of his performance, I thought it was absolutely superb. I've got no arguments there. He did, however, only have the one shot on target and one big chance, which, is slightly, I think that, everyone thought he was peppering the goal with shots and wherever, and he
it
didn't,
felt like it, I think, as a
it did.
non-owner.
It did, but he didn't, and he's playing Leicester as well, in game week 2. Now, Leicester's expected goals conceded for last week was only 1.1. And I looked at their away form for last year as well, and again it was very similar in terms of 1.1. So they generally only look to concede a goal a game. Now, if you've got Antonio, I think you're absolutely fine. If you haven't got Antonio, maybe a bit more inclined to get Ben Rama in.
Yeah.
But even though I think Ben Rama is a fantastic option, I don't think he's a knee jerk, either from the fact that I don't think we should be knee jerking this week anyway,
Yeah.
and from the fact that I think he'd be a good option. But I think there are decent other options as well. What about yourself, Nim?
Yeah, so last night when I could see that the price was likely to go up for Ben Rama, I was seriously itchy fingers. I was like, because as you know, before the start of the season, I was actually considering
Yeah,
switching Rafinha to Ben Rama when I found out about the international news. So the fact that he did well last week as well was kind of on my mind, and I was like, oh, should I do it? But I'm kind of with you on this one. I want to give my team some time and I want to see what Rafinha can do because he still looked great
exactly. He
last
missed a
game week.
massive chance, didn't he? Right
Massive
at the end.
chance.
Oh my
Yeah, it was
goodness,
so
that was so
frustrating.
frustrating. It was.
It's that sort of thing where you think on another day that had gone in, you wouldn't really be splitting hairs about Ben Rama's extra assist,
Exactly.
really. And there probably wouldn't be this massive rush to buy Ben Rama in.
Yeah.
And it was pointed out to me in comparison on Twitter that Suchek, for a cheaper price now, point 0.1, got a goal but had 4 shots, 3 in the box and 1 on target. So seemingly more advanced than Ben Rama, even though I think because we were all caught up in Ben Rama looking so good, we've maybe kind of
Yeah.
overmissed Suchek and indeed Bowen also looked quite good.
Owen did, yeah, the
So
one-on-one, didn't he? And the keeper made a great save. Yeah,
yeah, so I
agree.
think it's the sort of situation where a bit like with City, I want to sit back just another game week potentially and see
Yeah,
where I would like to put my cash if I'm going to invest in another West Ham.
I agree. I just don't think there's any rush. He played really well. He looked really good, but so did lots of other players as well. So just to play for another week, I think.
All right, so we've chatted over knee jerking Ben Rama in. So let's move on to the best time for Sun. When do we get Sunny in our team then?
Yeah, he's going to be a hard one, isn't he?
Mm,
Because of his price, because we're going to have to shift some money around. So there's a couple of things in mind. Well, there's a fair few things with Son. There's obviously the Kane sort of dilemma, which is going on and on and on. He's not in
yeah.
the squad to travel for the Europa Conference playoff game, which again
Mm.
intimates maybe that you know he may be off to City. If Son stays and plays up front, he's obviously a fantastic option. He's such an elite finisher. He doesn't get massive chances, Son, but he takes a lot of chances. He's such a great player because of his price point. I think there's very few of us can actually move to Son in one move. So I certainly couldn't, and neither could you, unless we took out Salah or Bruno, which we're just not going to do, right?
No.
So um, this this immediately leads me to think that the earliest we could bring them in is possibly game week 3, and that's if we save in game week 2, unless we're looking for hits. If you look at our teams, we've got kind of Greenwood and Rafinha both got really nice fixtures this week, and Bruno and Salah has as well. Spurs away to Wolves. Wolves I thought were actually okay last week. I think they're unlucky kind of not to get some last at Leicester, but they are home to Watford in game week 3. So that Son against Watford, is probably a better time to bring in, both from a transfer count perspective, but also the fixture. Now, we'll touch on this in a little bit. I think it's our 5th thing, but there could be some international impact potentially with Salah.
Yeah.
And Salah also plays Chelsea in game week 3. Now, it's hard to get to Son, but Salah potentially to Son in game week 3 could be something to look at. But I do think we need to think about saving this week to put ourselves in the best position we can to assess all our options next week. Where are you on Son, then?
So I have a big love for Sunny, but I'm totally with you on this. Something that really rang true to me when we've discussed in the past about tips and tricks and things like that, and that was, I think you mentioned how many players can you get for Sun's price,
Yeah.
and that's kind of been in my head whilst I've been thinking about Sunny. And even though he looked absolutely great against Manchester City, he did only have the one shot, which
Yeah.
ended in the goal, and one attempted assist. And obviously, we need to see also what happens when Kane drops back in as well. So
Exactly.
hopefully, we can possibly get Kane back in game week 2 so we can see whether Sonny and Kane are going to vibe off of each other again, or
Yeah.
whether this is going to impact on Sonny's output. But yeah, at the moment, as you say, when you consider Sushek's stats last week or Ben Rama's stats last week compared to Sonny's of this week, okay, he was against Manchester City. You could
Yeah.
say slightly better defensively, although for me, City haven't looked that great
I
defensively.
haven't.
So when you consider that, I'm thinking it's a lot of money for somebody with those particular stats, but he does have that great fixture in game week 3, and it's another reason, I guess, for wanting to hold on Ben Rama to push that extra transfer forward so that I have the 2 free transfers, a bit more data in my pocket, and then I can decide whether or not Sunny is the move, because it is going to be moving, somebody probably like Tony down to a 4.5, and then moving
Exactly.
Greenwood up to Son. And if Greenwood manages to do as well this week as he did last week, it's going to be very tough to sell him. There's a lot to think about on Sonny for sure.
I completely agree. It's not just about getting Son in your team. It's having to re-engineer your team almost to kind of fit him in. I think the only thing in Son's favour for game week 3, why people are so keen on him, is because Salah's he's not really a captaincy option at Chelsea game week 3. Man United are away to Wolves, which could be a decent one. But I think like West Ham and Leicester have got really good fixtures, but there's no maybe a massive standout captaincy option in game week 3,
Yeah.
which I think is something in Son's favour now. If there was a real standout captaincy option, I personally don't think yet, just considering the shape of my team, that I would look to get him in.
Hmm.
It's that captaincy worry, because he is highly owned. He was 21%, I think, before game week 1. I'm not sure what it is now. I'm assuming it's kind of roughly the same. But if he's heavily captained in game week 3 and he does well, and we don't own him, then we could be in a bit of trouble. But yeah, I think wait a week. We'll have a lot more information about a lot of things, and make more of an informed decision next week, maybe.
Yeah, because somebody also mentioned that Sunny has Korean duty as well. So he's obviously going to be missing out on particular game weeks as well. So that's something we need to keep an eye on, whilst he isn't kind of, I don't think he's called up in that international block, but he does have other commitments back
Yeah.
at home. So that could be an effect on, how long we have him. Because even though he looks like a great captaincy pick for game week 3, is he a great captaincy pick game week 4 or 5?
they're away to Palace in game week 4, but United are home to Newcastle. So you think Bruno is going to be massively captainable there. And Spurs in game weeks 5, 6, and 7 have got Chelsea, Arsenal, and Villa, who've all got reasonable defenses. So he's probably not. And this is the thing as well, is the thinking ahead. Do you really want to re-engineer your whole team to get someone in basically for one game week?
Yeah.
I personally, I don't play like that. And even if you miss out on a haul, it's like, it's not the end of the world, because a lot of other managers will be eating into that haul to take hits to maybe move him out. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
agreed. That's the one thing as well that I was thinking of when it comes to Sun, is that whilst I can see game week 3 is just plumb for captaincy, I then want to try and think ahead, which I haven't done a lot of
exactly,
in the past. Would I then captain him game week 4, game week 5? And I'm not sure that I
exactly.
would at the moment. So that's another thing for me to kind of just sit on
It's a
that.
really good point.
Okay, number 4 this week is, what player should we avoid or sell? Who we saying then, Fergie? I mean, one up there at the moment for me as a bit of a reaction pick in the community is Alonso, but he seems a bit of a rotation risk for me.
Yeah, I think he's a massive rotation risk. So I think, as a game week 1 punt, I think he was absolutely fantastic and very well done to everyone who got him, knowing that
Go
he was a
Alonso.
1 week punt. He's absolutely brilliant. What a free kick as well. Um, However, obviously, he's not first choice for them. He did play really well actually in the European Super Cup
Yeah.
match. I thought he played well on the weekend as well. I do think
Mm.
he's a top play. Just doesn't really fit into their system. And and Chilwell, I would personally expect Chilwell to come back in. Now he may not, but Chelsea's next 2 anyway, and not the best. They are away to Arsenal and away to Liverpool. But I would take advantage personally. You've got the 15 points off Alonso. If you did get him, you very likely were willing to get rid of him for game week 2. And I carry on with that plan personally, especially when there's no massively urgent move, other move to be kind of made. What about you, Nim?
Yeah, I agree. I love Golonzo, but yeah, I probably wouldn't be rushing to get him in at the moment.
Definitely not.
So, but another player in the community that's getting a lot of attention this week due to his injury, shoulder injury last week, is Gundogan. There's a lot of confusion over whether he's starting, not starting, in training. Yeah, what's our thoughts on Gundogan?
I personally think, if you've got him, so it looked like he trained yesterday. Obviously, we have no context of the training, whether it was, kind of full, fully physical sort of trainer, whether he was just playing, in a mini kind of five-a-side game because he hurt his shoulder, right? So,
Yeah,
but it looked like he was in training. I think if he's fit, he starts. I think he's really, really pivotal to City in that team. And I also think, if you picked Gundogan, every single person who plays FPL, well, who knows anything about football, knows about Pep Roulette.
yes.
You've obviously got it in your mind that he may be a rotation risk
Yeah,
anyway. So my personal view on what I would do is, I don't have Gundogan, but if I had him, I I'd just be starting him, and if he doesn't play for whatever reason, you just use your first bench. But I personally think you won't get a better game this season at home to
yeah.
Norwich.
Mm,
And I've seen a bit of Gundogan to Ben Rama, Gundogan to Greenwood, Gundogan to Jota. Gundogan could smash it this weekend, the
yeah.
same as everyone else. So I would, if I held Gundogan, I would definitely be playing him this weekend, especially as we saw he was training yesterday. The only way I wouldn't, and the only way I would think about moving him on, is if Pep confirms specifically in his press conference
Yeah,
that Gundogan is not
which doesn't
is not
happen
fit.
often for Pep.
It doesn't. So if he says Gundogan is not fit, then I'd be tempted to maybe move him on. But other than that, I just play him personally. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on it, Nim?
Yeah, I think City is one that I'm more scared of this week. Apart from Ben Rama, City players are the ones that kind of terrify me, because I feel like this is the week where they could come back and seriously smash, could seriously smash Norwich, and we'd be like, whoa. But yeah, and then we'll all be wanting City players in our team left, right, and centre. So I did consider last game week that if Rafinha didn't do so great and Torres looked brilliant, that I might switch sideways to Torres or Gundogan, but then Gundogan got the injury, and I thought, well, I'm not sure I want to risk it, even though, like you said, I think he starts. And if he doesn't start, I could still see him featuring if he's
Mm,
fit. And just a couple of minutes, against Norwich could be enough for Gundogan.
yeah,
So I am a little bit worried about not owning any City players this game week, but I'm going to trust the process in the fact that I want to try and hold my team and get some more data because much like other players, I'm really unsure where I want to invest my cash when it comes to City yet, but Mahrez, KDB, Gundogan, Torres, any one of them could smash it this week, even Grealish,
good.
so I just wanna I think it's gonna be a bloodbath, don't get me wrong, I do think City are gonna be out for blood, and I think, they will smash Norwich, and then we'll all be piling in. Definitely, but I'd like to see who ends up doing the scoring before I decide which one I wanna go in on, but if I had Gundogan, I would hold him. As much as other people are shiny and they did quite well last game week, I would hold and wait and see what happens this game week.
I think with Man City, personally, I think I'm going to hold out to see what happens with Kane because I think if Kane goes there,
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
going to want him. So we'll know for definite by game week 4 because obviously the transfer window closes
Yeah,
between game week 3 and game week 4. So I'm personally just going to hold out because City haven't looked good. I don't think they look good in the Community Shield. I don't think they look good in game week 1. Even if they do well in game week 2, fair enough. But again, it's the same issue then in game week 3 as, Mahrez has started the last 2. Is he going to start the third and all this kind of stuff? And people are coming back. If Jesus starts up front, Torres is yet another option on the wing. Grealish and
agree.
Sterling are fighting on that left hand side. You just don't know who's going to play,
I know.
and so I think after game week 3, so in between I think 3 and 4, we'll know more about Kane. If De Bruyne is back, and becoming a real option as well, it's then I think after international break, our 5 things should all be combined into right. How do we fit Salah, Bruno, Son, De Bruyne, Lukaku, and Kane all in our
Yes.
team? We could
Yeah.
spend all day talking about that, couldn't we?
We could, and it is gonna be tough, and I think we're only gonna be able to basically go ahead talking about it in terms of form and fixtures, and that's all we
You're
can
right.
do.
You're
So,
right.
but we'll definitely be discussing that more on this channel, I'm pretty sure. So,
Definitely.
our last and final thing to discuss today for our 5 things is the hot topic in the community ahead of game week 2, and of course, the next few game weeks is the players going off on their international duty. So it's going to have a big impact on our FPL teams. The standout players to be affected are Martinez, Buendia, Richarlison, Rafinha, Soyuncu, Edison Cavani, Jimenez, and the Liverpool lads of Alisson, Firmino, and the big one Salah. Of course, there are more, but I've just picked out some of the kind of notables there. Thoughts on how we navigate this then, Fergie, and if we should be getting our teams ready now for this carnage that's ahead of us?
Well, I suppose it's probably important for you to say that it kind of may or may not happen, right?
Yeah.
It does look like that there may be a bit of impact for game week 4, potentially game week 5, with the way the fixtures have landed, and there's also a couple of other uh, nations as well. So if Michael Antonio uh, goes
Yes.
away with Jamaica, he's going to be playing away in a red listed country, and there's
Mhm.
a few other players as well. So it's absolutely massive. So I think at the moment, I'd be surprised if it happened personally because I think the Premier League is such a massive brand that I'd be surprised because it would like decimate the Premier League right for a week or
Yeah.
two. I would be surprised if it happens first, but if it does, I think the things we can do in terms of preparing our team. So one, this is, I've kind of mentioned already, one, I would definitely hold a transfer this week, whatever happens. So, I can't think of many situations unless you've picked a team which was just, which was
Awful.
just an awful team. If you've got Salah and or Bruno, captain them safe. I would just say get through this week, and then give yourself a free transfer going into game week 3. And then going into 3, you could, if you want, you can either use the couple of transfers then to get your team ready. We should know more by then anyway, so you can actually make a move or two then. I'm personally going to look definitely to save this week, use one transfer next week, and then carry over 2, because then even if that is the case into game week 4, it means you can make 3 transfers in game week 4 for just a -4 if you need to.
Yeah.
However, I would also say, and this is again talking about like the longer game and the bigger picture, right? So if you take out Salah, Rafinha, and a couple of other players in game week 4, and they're back for game week 5,
Yeah.
you then have to work out a way of how to get them back. And who's to say that the players you get in for game week 4 to take over from Salah actually score any points anyway? So I would just, so my thing, I know we kind of say it every week, and it's not like a bit of a broken record, and it's boring in terms of what people maybe want to hear in terms of, make this transfer, do this,
Yeah.
and be maverick. The complete opposite with that. I would just, even if your team, even if the average is 60 points in game week 4 and you score 50 points,
Yeah.
right? You're down, you're down by 10 points, but you've got transfers in hand, and you've still got the key players you want in your team, whereas then everyone else is going to have to work out how to re-engineer their teams back to get in these key players. Bear in mind, players like Rafinha's fixtures are absolutely fantastic for game week 5 onwards. Salah is the best captaincy option for game week 5 and 6. So Liverpool, if I just look, they have Crystal Palace at home in game week 5 and Brentford in game week 6. Now, you're not going to want to be without Salah in those games either.
No.
So my advice is hold your transfers back, only make moves if you need to. Let all your rivals worry, let them knee jerk, let them over engineer their teams while you're just sat there. Take a short term hit if you need to, 5 or 10 point loss, fine for 1 week, because you'll get it back in spades the next few weeks. So that would be my advice. Now, I know it's not for everyone, but that would be my advice. How about you, Nima? What kind of thoughts have you got on how to manage it all?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on this one. I'm trying to be a lot more relaxed on it and not panic. So in the past, I would read this kind of information and I'd be like, "Oh, I need to start thinking about, taking certain players out and switching around my team." We need definites first before we even consider
Absolutely.
that. And then on top of that, as you say, the transfers for me are quite important, which is one of the main reasons why I didn't make that Rafinha to Benrahma move this week and likely won't do before the deadline, just because I want to hold that transfer back and have those extra transfers going into the next few weeks, because it's going to be
Exactly.
so pivotal, as you say, with other players back. I'm not dead against getting off of a player and then getting back on. That's not an issue for me. I don't mind
Yeah.
doing that. If I know that I've got the transfers in the bank to be able to do it, I'm trying not to take as many hits this time round. So I definitely want to make sure that I have the transfers in the bank to be able to do that if I want to do it. And the other thing I'd quite like to do if I decide to do it, say I wanted to get rid of Salah for the game week, is only moved to a very similar price point
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that I can move back. So if Salah isn't there, I'd be looking at Mane or even KDB or Sterling, just so that I can go straight back if I want to, because as you say, I'm gonna want Salah going forward after that. So there's definitely going to be a lot to think about, but I'm trying not to panic on it. And I don't think anyone else should panic on it yet until we have the full information in front of us. But the more banking you can do on transfers now, the better, in my opinion.
I agree, and we have to remember as well, it's very easy to forget, I think, that every single manager is in the same boat, every
Yes.
FPL manager. So if if it turns out in game week 4, right, that we're fielding 9 or 10 players,
Yeah,
everyone's fielding 9 or 10,
so be
and
it.
the only ones who aren't are likely taking hits to make a full 11, which immediately gives you an advantage. So I just wouldn't panic. I can, like I touched on it earlier, but I can potentially see Salah to Son in
Mm.
game week 3
Oh,
being
yeah.
a move potentially. But again, we'll know more next week on that one. And then, maybe going back from Son to Salah in game week 4 or 5 when we know that Salah is back. And I can understand that one.
Yeah,
Because Son is, he's a premium asset. He's got a great home game against Watford. Salah has Chelsea, and then may not play in 4 or 5.
yeah.
But what if then? What if Salah's back in game week 4, and and then
Mm.
you're like, oh, so you immediately have to reverse that transfer, and you haven't moved the rest of your team on either. So
Yeah.
this is why I think advice is just to hold off and save your transfers back and use them when you really need them instead of making luxury moves like bringing Ben Rama in this week. For me, is probably a definition of like a luxury move that you don't need to make because you've got Rafinha. So I'm talk about you name, I just mean in general, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
in my boat, I've got Rafinha. He's got I think it's Everton and Burnley in the next two. More than happy with that. So
Yeah, agreed. And it is that news on whether or not somebody like Salah will miss out on 4 and 5 or
yeah,
whether just 4. So,
yeah,
hopefully we get that kind of information before we need it. Because if
yeah.
we don't get that, then it is going to be very difficult to navigate for sure.
If it's only 4, then Bruno is the best captaincy option at the moment in game week 4, home to Newcastle. So if that is the case, you could even get away with benching Salah, right? In my opinion, because Bruno's effective ownership that week will be absolutely massive. But again, it's a game of opinions, and but yeah, interesting stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, that's it, you guys. That's our 5 things for Game Week 2. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and do give us any ideas of what you'd like to see us discuss ahead of Game Week 3. If you've enjoyed the video, then please do like, share, and subscribe. So it's a goodbye for now from me and a goodbye from Fergie.
It is. Hope you all smash game week 2. The very best of luck.
Lots of luck, guys. Until next time, Nymphria times Fergie out.